So we've discussed invoices and the components of the invoices, and we've discussed shipping and how that affects those cash discounts and stuff like that. So we now want to look at invoice date modifiers. What invoice date modifiers do is they change the effective invoice date as far as finding the end of the discount period and credit period. Our two most common modifiers. One is ROG, which stands for receipt of goods. This one is used when it might take a considerable amount of time to ship goods from the producer to the distributor, from buyer to seller. So the time it takes to ship it might use up the whole discount period or even a large portion of the credit period and make it difficult for the buyer to take advantage of those benefits. So they modify the invoice so that the effective date of the invoice, those periods start on the date that the goods are received by the buyer. So there's a return receipt through the shipper that notifies the seller when the goods are delivered. So let's do an example of that. So let's have an invoice that is dated on March 28th for an amount, let's go $740. Terms. This part's going to be similar to what we've done before. It's going to be 210, net 30, net 60, whatever we want to put. We'll go net 30, which is just followed by the ROG for receipt of goods. And we're going to put in here seller prepays let's go $90 in freight. There's one more piece of information we need. We need that receipt of goods. So the shipper confirms delivery on April 7th. So now the question is, how much is paid on April 15th? So our timeline changes here. Instead of starting on March 28th, which is the invoice date, that date is modified. So we use the date the goods are received, the April 7th date, to start our timeline. 210, so 10 days after that, that's going to be April 17th. That's the end of our discount period. And that is a 2% discount during that period. So April 15th does fall within that discount period. So they're going to get the discount. Again, just to complete the timeline, 30 days later would be May 7th, only 30 days in April. So how much is being paid on April 15th? Well, they're going to get the 2% discount. Remember, we use the complement. 100% minus 2% is 98%. We're going to write that as 0.98. So we will multiply our invoiced amount of $740 by 0.98. You might be asking at this point, what about the freight? Well, remember, we don't add in the freight until after the discount is taken. The discount does not apply to the freight. So 740 times 0.98 gives us $725.20. That's the amount it's going to take to pay off the invoice, and we do still have to add that $90 in freight charges. So the total paid from the buyer to the seller, if paid on April 15th, is $815.20. EOM is a little bit more complex. EOM stands for end of month. And we're oversimplifying a concept here. It might not necessarily be the end of month. It might be end of week. It might be end of quarter. Hopefully not end of quarter, but it's the end of a period of time. And what is smaller companies don't have time to send out invoices every day. Larger companies have bookkeeping staffs. They send out invoices every day for the goods that were shipped that day. Well, a smaller company might not have that capability. They might take a period of time where they take all the shipping slips from the loading dock and all those slips that are produced during that period of time, and they take all of them, and at the end of that period of time, they take one day or even a part of a day where they process all of those shipping slips and they send them out as invoices, create the invoices and send them out to customers. So because of that, all those invoices get dated on the date that they are sent out. So this becomes the effective invoice date. But because the technical invoice should have been generated on the day it was shipped, the day that the merchandise was shipped is still going to appear as the invoice date on the invoice itself, but we modify it using the EOM modifier to tell us that we're going to use the date that the invoice was generated and sent to the buyer as the effective date for our timelines. Now this could, like I said, it could be the end of a week, could be the end of the month, it could be the middle of the month that they do it. To simplify things for this class, we're going to assume that time period is 1 month. So this is the first of the month. This is the last day of the month, whether it's the 30th or 31st. So all invoices get sent out the last day of the month. So the effective date of an invoice is always the last day of the month that it was produced in. Now, because there's sometimes lag in getting slips from the loading docks up to the bookkeeping office, some of those shipping slips that are generated these last couple of days might not get up there by the end of the month to be put into that batch. Now, there's always a lag time. Now, it could be a 2-day or a 3-day. For purposes of this class, we're going to put the cutoff here as the 26th. Any slips that are produced on or after the 26th go into the next month's batch. So that little quirk there can cause a little bit of confusion. So let's look at some end of month examples here. When end of month is used, when EOM is used, it's always implied to be net 30, so the 30th of the next month. Of course, the question comes in, what about April? What about February? We deal with that when we hit it. We're not going to deal with that in this course. As I said, this is an oversimplification of this concept just for academic purposes. So we're going to take a look at an invoice that is dated May 18th for an amount of, let's just go $1,600. Our terms. Now remember, it's implied the net 30 is implied in EOM. So all we really have to define is the discount period. So let's go with a 110 discount, EOM. So it's implying net 30 with that discount in the first 10 days. Seller prepays $300 in freight. Find the amount paid on June 8th. So really the effects of that EOM here deal with the timelines. Our timeline does not start at the invoice date of May 18th. It starts at the end of that month. So May has 31 days, so it's going to start on May 31st. which makes it really convenient for finding the end of our discount period and our credit period. This 1% discount period is going to end June 10th. It's always that 10th or the 5th, whatever it is, if it's a 1/10 or a 1/5 of the next month. The credit period then ends on the 30th. So that's always very simple to find those dates once you find the effective date to start the timeline. June 8th, of course, falls within that discount period, so they do get the 1% discount. So remember, 1%, we use the complement. 100 minus 1 is 99, so we're going to use 0.99 here, times our $1,600 invoice, which is going to give us for $1,584. And of course, we have to add in that freight charge of $300 from up here. So the amount that would be paid is $1,884 if paid on that June 8th deadline. Now this can be quite confusing if we hit that 26th, that cutoff, and get put into the next month. Let's say that we have an invoice that is dated October 28th with an amount of, let's go $2,800. Terms, let's go 210 EOM. Our seller prepays $400 in freight. Let's find the amount paid, how much is paid on December 6th. Now, a lot of people are going to say, well, December 6th, that's too late. It's past the end of the credit period. It's more than 30 days. But remember, this is EOM. So the effective date is the end of the month. However, this is after October 26th. Remember, on or after the 26th of the month, it doesn't make it into that batch. So this ends up going into the November batch. So that means this is, the last day of November is the 30th. So this is effectively dated November 30th, which means 10 days, that 2% discount ends on December 10th. And of course, December 30th is the end of our credit period. So December 6th is well within that discount period. 2% discount, so we're going to take the $2,800. The complement of 2% is 98%, so times 0.98. Give us what, 27.44. And to that, we're going to add our freight of $400. So the total paid here would be $3,144 if paid on December 6th. So that is end of month dating and receipt of goods datings for our invoice date modifiers.